Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. The last remaining arms control treaty between the United States and Russia, New START, officially expired on February 5th. With it, the final barrier holding it back, full-scale nuclear competition between the world's two largest powers has now disappeared. As Washington floats the idea of bringing China into a new trilateral framework, concerns are rising that we could see a return to Cold War-style dynamics, but this time with faster, more advanced weapons. Now, these developments inevitably cast a long shadow over the Korean Peninsula as well. With North Korea preparing for its 9th Party Congress and signaling a stronger military posture, the question now is, how does this shifting global nuclear order reshape the security calculus here at home? For a deeper discussion on this, we connect to Dr. Stephen Norper, President of Asia Dialogue. Very good to see you.
Good to see you.
And also joining us is Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. Good to see you again, Dr. Go.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start a discussion first with Dr. Norper. Like I've said, the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, it expired on February 5th. What does this actually mean in the current global security landscape? And also, why did the two sides fail to reach an extension agreement?
Well, that's a great question. In a global security landscape that is as fast changing as the one that we face now, it's actually a very significant development and a very worrying concern. You just showed former Presidents Obama and Medvedev, who had signed that agreement in 2010. It bought 15 years of tacit agreement between the United States and Russia, building on an earlier agreement. To not have that in place is very worrisome. It sends all the wrong messages in the sense that Russia and the United States are not legally beholden now. Both seem to have agreed to a one-year extension. The Kremlin has said through Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov that Putin is willing to extend a year if it's held in the current state. And the White House seems disposed in that way as well. And of course, President Trump, as you just shown through his Truth Social post, has called for a stronger agreement. He's also very interested in getting China at the table. So it's a mix of different changes in the international arena, the faster weaponry you mentioned, the hypersonic missiles, cybersecurity, and missile defense systems that are new that have thrown things off kilter. But to not have those protections in place, a very worrying development because it creates potential tensions that could go awry. It also sets a very bad example for North Korea, for others, and it brings up the potential for an arms race and a crisis in nuclear nonproliferation.
Right, definitely. So it's a real shift in the global balance now. And as Dr. Norper has just touched upon, the U.S., it's interested in bringing China into the trilateral framework. Dr. Go, what is Washington's core goal in trying to bring China into this negotiation?
So yeah, the main purpose of this new, the reason why the New START treaty hasn't been renewed by the United States is because United States especially believes that it doesn't really reflect the situation on the ground, which is rapidly changing, mainly due to China's fast build-up of its nuclear capability. So the New START treaty is a bilateral treaty between Russia and the United States, and really ties down the respective powers' nuclear arsenal to around 1,500 warheads max. But then what happened in the last 10 years was that China has been increasingly becoming more capable in terms of nuclear capability, also in terms of the size of its nuclear arsenal. So back in 2020, only 6 years ago, China had around 200 nuclear warheads, and then it's expected to build up to 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030. So there's a growing perception in Washington that this New START treaty is, which is tying down U.S. nuclear capability, is not really binding China's nuclear ambitions just as tightly. So this is one of the reasons why the United States wants to include China in any type of a new arms control framework in the future.
Well, that's the goal of Washington. But We hear that China, it has refused to join the existing framework, pointing to the different size and structure of its nuclear forces compared to U.S. and Russia. Dr. Norbert, what kind of agenda setting do you think would be necessary for trilateral talks to actually move forward with China?
Yeah, an important question, because the likelihood is that it will be made not so much on strategic levels, meaning not so much in terms of the type of weaponry, though China does argue that it's smaller and not as formidable as U.S. and Russian capabilities. As Dr. Go has just said, those are capped at 1,550 under the New START agreement, also the delivery systems. So ready operational heavy delivery is capped at about 700 and non at about 800. So it's a question of the lethality, the size, and also the delivery capability. The way out, though, would be for President Trump and President Xi in their meeting in April to move forward on this. It should be a priority of the White House, and what the United States is likely to do is to try to argue through its leaders' meeting that China needs to come on board. It will make the same arguments to Russia, and clearly Putin and Trump share a continuing dialogue, as Trump claims he does with Xi as well. So do expect the three leaders to be talking about this very specifically, and the off-ramp will be in China agreeing to some arms control. The other way around it, and to be more inclusive, is to get the other nuclear powers, Britain and France, at the table with China, the United States, and Russia, and to try to strike an agreement that way. That may be more palatable for China.
Now, that being said, the end of this New START is also raising concerns about renewed global arms race. And some say it may trigger a faster shift towards a qualitative arms race rather than just a numerical one. And at a time when the nuclear risk is said to be at its highest in decades, Dr. Norbert, what dangers could this type of competition bring?
Oh, it's tremendously rife with danger. The idea that you would have qualitative enhancements, which really are the factor of the day, as you led off with the mention of that high-speed capability, hypersonic delivery, new levels of efficacy, and warfare itself has been changing, as we've seen widely and globally in Ukraine and elsewhere. And so the idea of the enhanced lethality, given the inputs of new technology, are very, very dangerous indeed. That is also very dangerous relative to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And clearly, China is seeking to duck as the United States and Russia move away from the New START commitments, at least titularly. And clearly, for smaller countries, this leaves them adrift and wondering, where are the guarantees? And to remain committed to the Non-Proliferation Treaty is a trade-off compared to pushes for autonomous capability and the development of individual capability by different nations. And so we will see calls for that in other places, and it could hit Northeast Asia very hard. So to avoid an arms race is critically important at this point.
Well, definitely, it may be even destabilizing more than one in numbers. Now, meanwhile, there are also projections that if nuclear competition ramps up again, North Korea will flat out reject denuclearization demands. Dr. Go, how do you assess the current shift influencing Pyongyang's arms development pace or even its negotiating posture?
Well, clearly, North Korea's illicit nuclear program is not motivated by arms race between the United States, Russia, and China now. North Korea has been developing its nuclear capability independent of the arms control framework, which actually was working quite well until recently. But on the other hand, clearly, if we are at the precipice of arms race in the nuclear field, then I think it's going to really provide more justification to Pyongyang and rationalize its behavior. And also, not just politically, but as North Korea sees that major powers, United States, Russia, and China, are building up more nuclear weapons, they might think that they might feel the need to develop or grow their nuclear arsenal even more because they feel the need to respond to growing size of a nuclear arsenal, and also other sophisticated weapon systems that could be targeted at the country. So I think North Korea might, first of all, feel justified in its behavior. And second is that in terms of hardware, they might feel the need to match US capability, especially missile for missile. So in that sense, I think really increases the chance of North Korea engaging even bigger expansion of its nuclear arsenal in the future.
So it's kind of bringing North Korea further to denuclearization, we can say, right?
Yep, exactly.
Then with this scenario, Dr. Norber, what kind of direction should South Korea's security strategy take in response to that? And what about broader cooperation frameworks, trilateral ties like, South Korea, US, Japan, or South Korea, China, Japan?
Well, certainly. South Korea will be looking in several different directions. One, of course, is the trilateral relationship you mentioned with the United States and Japan. President Yi has been quite pragmatic in his reach out to Japan. We see with Prime Minister Takaichi just receiving a new mandate this last Sunday with her strong electoral win that she may be in for some time in office. And of course, what that creates is a dynamic where they need to coordinate. And if they don't, if there's a falling off or a failing, then we have a more vulnerable situation. There will be calls from the far right in Japan, as well as from some conservatives in South Korea, to develop autonomous nuclear capability. That has been an ongoing concern of the United States as it tries to contribute and to manage that trilateral relationship. We also have concern for countries like South Korea if they're forced to choose between China and Japan. The political pressures now will be very strong on countries like South Korea. And so that will be difficult if Prime Minister Takaichi feels emboldened with this win and the ties between Beijing and Tokyo fray even further. However, China may be quite pragmatic, accept that, and find a diplomatic solution out. Let's hope. But we need to watch this very carefully because there is no guarantee around the Americans. People are less trusting of the United States under Donald Trump. And there's lots of concern that the U.S. is not a reliable partner. If that distrust prevails, then it will cause many to rush toward the option. And that's what we don't want, to see a world that has grown more nuclear with that option being undertaken.
Right. So with the growing uncertainty, it seems the South Korea strategy has to evolve through that too. Now, shifting gears a little bit, on February 8th, marking the 78th anniversary of the founding of the Korean People's Army, North Korean Chairman Kim Jong-un stated that the next 5 years will be a period where the regime's military role will become even greater. Dr. Go, how could we read into these comments?
Well, I think we have to look at the timing of the remarks. It was made on the day of the anniversary of the establishment of the North Korean military. And also, it's very near the time for the start of the Ninth Party Congress. We know the agenda in the Ninth Party Congress will be marking the milestone of North Korea's military achievements in the last 5 years. And one of the major drives behind North Korea's military development at the moment is the integration between its conventional and the nuclear capability. And North Korea has achieved a very high level of nuclear capability built up in the last 5 years. What's lagging behind is North Korea's conventional capability. And I think Kim Jong-un probably is going to use this occasion of the Ninth Party Congress to even give even more highlight to the need for North Korea to catch up with South Korea and the United States in the conventional military domain, and also announce further plans to enhance the capability in that particular type of military capability. So I think this is going to have a message that North Korean military is even more capable than before, not just because it has nuclear weapons, but now North Korea is using the nuclear weapons, adapting the nuclear, not using, but adapting the nuclear weapons capability into its conventional doctrine. So in that sense, it makes North Korea's threat even more powerful. So I think that's going to be the reason why Kim Jong-un made such an announcement that he expects North Korea's military to have a much more pivotal role in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Then what do you think the Party Congress will lay out North Korea's future strategic direction, especially in terms of its messaging towards U.S. and South Korea, Dr. Go?
So, for instance, when it comes to South Korea, we know that North Korea has been very consistent in its hostility towards Seoul. North Korea had been very engaged in a very systematic efforts to dismantle its previous doctrine of unification of the two Koreas. It's replacing that with the new doctrine of so-called two hostile states doctrine, which considers South Korea to be North Korea's main adversary, not adversary, but actually an enemy state. And this has a very strong downstream ramifications in North Korea's political system because North Korea, for instance, had several agencies and ministries in charge of inter-Korean dialogue, which have been dismantled. But in a most meaningful way, I think what's going to affect North Korean state is the entire legitimacy built around the fact that North Korea pursues national unification. So ideology is very important in North Korea, and now that North Korea is proposing to replace the unification ideology with an ideology of confrontation with South Korea, North Korea will have to engage in a lot of political maneuvers, a new formulation of its doctrines and also its policies. And it's likely that the mechanisms or new framework to engage in such actions will be announced in the upcoming Ninth Party Congress. So I think all eyes are watching very closely on what's going to be announced in this Party Congress because it's going to have huge implications for the inter-Korean relations for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And also when it comes to the United States, the expectation is pretty down to earth. I think that there isn't much of a high hope that Kim Jong-un is going to make a major diplomatic initiative announcement in this Party Congress. I think North Korea might actually remain, when it comes to its posturing towards the United States, North Korea might just announce that they're still interested in engaging countries that are interested in respecting North Korea's ambition in the nuclear field.
Mm-hmm. So it seems we're going to expect Pyongyang's next playbook in the Congress. Well, there's also talks about whether this Congress could serve to elevate leader Kim Jong-un's political status. Some even suggest the possibility of reviving the presidency once held by Kim Il-sung. Dr. Norbert, what would be the meaning behind such a move?
I think that's a very good observation. Don't be surprised if you see that type of titular upgrade. Clearly, it puts him on a level where he can equate himself in the international community as well on the presidential level. He may feel that makes communication across with President Vladimir Putin of Russia or President Trump or President Xi more on an equal parallel. It also underscores this idea that Dr. Go was talking about in terms of a two-state reality and the fact that he sees himself as the sovereign head of that. So it really wouldn't be that much of a surprise, but it would be worth noting because it shows that this continued lock into a two-state or two kingdoms period is very much what North Korea is seeking. I think the other element that we haven't mentioned is that the relationship between the DPRK and Russian Federation is quite strong. It is much enhanced. And so I think he will take comfort in his relations, in particular with President Putin of Russia. And so in that sense, perhaps that makes an upcoming presidential summit between Trump and Kim, perhaps in Pyongyang, perhaps in Moscow, more of a likelihood.
Mm-hmm. So a new title for Kim, it would definitely bring up big changes moving forward. Now, following the Ninth Party Congress, there are predictions that North Korea could add a new territorial waters clause into its constitution, potentially using it to nullify the northern limit line in the West Sea. Dr. Go, what are the chances of this becoming a reality, and how might it affect security in the Korean Peninsula?
Well, I think it's going to be a product of necessity of the change of the North Korea state doctrine from one of unification to the two-state doctrine. By announcing that North Korea is no longer interested in South Korea, it's likely that North Korea will have to actually make it clear what are the boundaries of North Korea now, because before North Korea, because we pursue unification with the South, just like South Korea has enshrined its constitution that the extent of South Korea includes the North, North Korea did the same, had the same stipulation on its laws and constitution. So now by amending it, North Korea will have to make a clarification on what's the total extent of its territory. And that impact will involve North Korea in this like a tricky, ambiguous gray waters of territorial waters in the Yellow Sea. And that I think North Korea might actually use that occasion for sending a threatening message to the South, because there's a conflict between North and South when it comes to the actual line that separates the North and South in the Yellow Sea or the West Sea for South Korea. And it's been a source of conflict between the two Koreas for decades now. And I think North Korea, by making a maximalist claim on that disputed territorial sea, it might actually increase the level of threat, but also pressure on the South in terms of military posture, as well as demanding South Korea to react. So I think it's likely that North Korea could use this opportunity to stake a claim in the Yellow Sea disputed area.
So it could raise tensions in the peninsula, and we'll have to keep close tabs on the developments on that sensitive matter. But as for now, we'll have to conclude our discussion right here. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Go.
My pleasure.
And of course, Dr. Norber, we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.